This would probably be the only time I'd ever get to work with all of them at one time. So that's why I did it.
This is Gun Cranks.
Hey kids, what time is it? It's Gun Cranks time. Sorry, I know you weren't.
I was not ready.
That's why
for
we
that.
don't discuss this stuff. I want to get the real, honest, Hey everybody, thanks for joining us here on Gun Cranks. I'm Guns Magazine editor Brent Wheat. I'm here with Tom McHale, the editor of American Handgunner, and our special assignments editor, Roy Huntington. And we're here to talk about more stuff, and maybe a first on Gun Cranks. We're actually going to agree on a point. Can you believe that? I think it does. Well, guys, we got a lot to talk about. Alec Baldwin, smash and grabs, and of course what we all want for Christmas. So let's get started with the Gun Cranks.
You know, whoever said all I want for Christmas is my two front teeth had no idea what he or she was talking about. Because when you're shooters, we all know what we want for Christmas, right, gentlemen?
Yeah.
I mean, we want gun stuff. You know, when I was editor at Handgunner, I used to tell the readers, because we used to do the Christmas roundups, you know, cool stuff to buy for Christmas. And we used to always say, circle what you want in red and leave it laying around on your wife's dresser and stuff like that. You know, with links, and even put $100 bills clipped to it if you need to. It doesn't really matter, you know. And so that way you're assured of getting what you want instead of, you know, plastic grips for a high point. You know, and it's like, gosh, thanks, you know. So I'm going to throw it out to the floor. Brent, what do you want for Christmas?
Well, mine's pretty complicated, so I may have to assist my lovely bride Shirley with getting this done. I want a silencer. I don't have a silencer. I've been meaning to get a silencer for years and years, and it's time. So that's what I want for Christmas. Now, knowing how the paperwork rolls and all that, I don't know that I'm going to get it under the tree this year, but that's kind of what we're getting started. So,
All right, so more details here. Rifle, pistol, combo, what are we talking?
I don't know yet. That's been the other thing.
It's really hard to shop that
Do
way.
I want rimfire?
We've lost
30
Brent.
cal?
Yeah.
I figure once we really get the paperwork in hand, and that, you know, we'll actually, that'll be the final decision. Because I can see the advantages to both, you know. It'd be nice to have one. I've got several, 30 cal rifles, and that would be nice. But as I think, Tom, you wrote in a recent story in Guns, if your heart is heavy and the world is weighing you down, go get a 22 with a silencer, and it'll just, bring joy to your life. So
Yes, it will. Guaranteed. There's a flaw in your plan.
It is so
Okay.
bizarre.
I heard you say the word one multiple times. That's the flaw. So you definitely need a rimfire
yeah,
on a small handgun. Like I have mine right now on a M&P 22 compact, which is a beautiful combination.
is that your assassination gun?
No. There we go. Banned from YouTube.
Yeah.
Thanks for that.
That was a joke, YouTube people. It was a joke.
Well, so anyway,
You know what?
get rid of that whole one thinking. Rimfire, rifle, pistol, one of
Yeah.
each.
Okay.
To start.
Well, my neighbor's a big suppressor guy. He's a doctor. He's got more money than sense, right? So, but I was helping him look at his suppressors one day, and he pointed out something that really made good sense to me, and it caused me to base my two suppressor purchases on that, is that he has 30 caliber suppressors, which also will fit on a 22, and we did some A/B testing, and I mean, I imagine the science will tell you that a dedicated 22 suppressor, on a 22 gun is quieter maybe than a 30 caliber suppressor on a 22 gun, but my ears couldn't hardly really tell any difference whatsoever. And so, yeah, like he said, if you really just want to buy one suppressor first, get a 30 caliber one. He said, because that way you can put it on your 300 blackout or your whatever. But you can also screw it on your, he keeps his on one of the, like a Ruger standard auto that's threaded for a suppressor. And you just pop it off one, pop it on the other, and go to work. So I went ahead and I bought 2 suppressors, but I went ahead and got a 22 and a 30, only because, and I'm sure Tom will help us educate us some more on this, some of the 22 ones are dedicated and small enough that they're pretty handy on a 22. You know, some of the 30 caliber ones might be a bit on the big size, but I agree with you, though. It's so much fun to do that, to shoot.
Well, I love that idea, and I've never heard that tip before, that, you know, you can shoot the 22 through the 30. So maybe that's my first multi-purpose, and then we'll go off into the weeds.
Don't try it on your 45.
Yeah.
That's my tip for success. So.
Oopsie. Yeah. You know, the thing about it is that, and I found this too, is that if you give a suppressed 22 pistol to a new shooter and let him gear up, you know, eyes and ears, and let him shoot it, because it lowers the recoil because it's kind of heavier. And then it just, you know, it's fun. And they go, well, this is easy. I thought this was going to be awful. You know, and then you can kind of wean them into shooting them unsuppressed. Tom, have you done that
every
before?
time. I mean that every single time I take a person shooting for the first time, they get the M&P 22 compact with a Silencer Coast Sparrow on the front. And like you said, it is more fun than should be legal. So they always want to come back.
I agree with you. And you know, I had one, somebody showed me, it was on a 22, and it was kind of a big one, but it was so good that you almost really couldn't hear the discharge of the gun, but I could hear just the clack, 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 clack of the action running. I just went, holy cow, I've never heard this before. Clack, 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 clack. All right, Tom, what do you want for Christmas?
I kind of want something pretty bougie, but I think you're going to approve of this. I want this Magna-ported. Okay, so what this is relatively new gun. This is a Springfield Armory Ronin in 10 millimeter, which is an awesome pistol. Absolutely love this thing. I mean, it's a good, solid, basic 1911 design. But I was thinking the other day, I was like, I need to call the Magnaport folks and say, if this were yours and you wanted to kind of evolve it into a custom gun over time, where would you start? And of course, you got to start with some Magnaport cuts. It's not bad off the bat. I mean, the recoil's a little more than an equivalent 45, but you know, a little more, not bad. But boy, it would be fun with some custom porting work done on this guy. So
yeah, I'll bet you we can arrange that. So.
do you know a guy?
You know, I was just talking to Ken Kelly there yesterday, as a matter of fact. He was kind enough to do a gun of the month for us. And he's telling me what he did and sent me some pictures of it. And we got to talk about what's still hot for you, you know, what's going on with Magnaport. And he said that's what keeps them in business.
Really?
Is
they do a lot of other
Yeah.
customization work too, right? So, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, every kind of custom. But he said, oh, no. He says it's constant. You know, just every day the UPS truck delivers guns, you know, or barrels or uppers or, you know, whatever. And they do their patented EDM stuff and off it goes. I was actually shooting a 10 millimeter the other day that had Magnaporting on it. And I had shot a similar gun without Magnaporting. And you're exactly right, Tom. I was very surprised at the difference
Be
that
still
made.
my
It
heart.
wasn't so much like...
So I made a good choice.
Yeah,
For my gift list then.
Well,
Okay.
you know, it wasn't so much like if you're shooting your 10 millimeter and kind of going bang, and then like looking at the target and adjusting your glasses and going bang. But if you want to go bang, 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 wow. It flattens everything out and it gets you back on target faster. So I was a convert yet again.
Again.
So,
Well, what about you? What's number one on your list?
you know, I've gone insane in my old age, and so
I wasn't going to say
a lot of people didn't notice that. I know a lot of people didn't even notice. They said, "What do you mean? It doesn't seem different to me." But I've just been drawn to weird calibers, rifles, and pistols lately, and odd things that require some to do to get them to work. And so, what I'm doing now is sort of seriously searching for some fairly exotic reloading equipment. Hard to find dies, and actually it's a few machine tools that I can use to chamber guns into even more stupid calibers. So on my Christmas list is basically an eBay and gun broker extravaganza of weird, stupid stuff that nobody else wants to buy.
Should be cheap then, right?
So, no, well, actually, some of that stuff, they look you right in the eye and they quote figures that kind of make you have to sit down and fan yourself for a minute. So, and actually, what, since we're talking about that, if you've got your heart set on Thompson Center stuff, which is part of what I was doing, the latest from Smith & Wesson is that it's all on hold and they're not really doing anything with it. But there is a Thompson Center Collectors Association. You can find them if you Google it. And so if you're on your Christmas list are Thompson Center things, you'll find by reaching out to the association there that you'll be amazed at what you can still find among the members there. They have a really good quarterly magazine with for sale things in it and trade. So yeah, all is not lost, so ask Santa for that. Well, I think we tossed the ball out there and it bounced around between us, and I hope Santa's listening, right, guys?
Please, Santa.
I have it on good authority. He's a viewer, so.
That's right. And remember, it's going to be really hard for us. Be nice, not naughty.
Hey guys, I got a story for you. As you know, I live here in South Carolina, where there might be more than a few gun owners. And the other day, I was in the local Gucci Tiffany store. I think that's what it's called. Maybe it was Louis Vuitton, that's what it was. Louis Vuitton store.
Yeah,
and
Louis
a bunch of us were in there shopping, and guess what didn't happen? A bunch of thugs did not burst in the front door wearing masks and smashing and grabbing stuff from all over the store. So here we are. We're there in the store. Not a darn thing happens except people are looking at stuff and trying it on and buying some things. So is that crazy or what?
That's crazy stuff, man. I mean,
I know.
I got to do my Christmas ripping pretty soon, so where am I going to go?
I know. So I was thinking about that. I mean, we're seeing all this stuff on the news about this growing crime wave of smash and grabs. Like, I mean, what are like 10, 20, 30 people busting into a small retail store and just grabbing everything and just overwhelming the place? And,
Well,
I was just kind of chuckling like, that's not going to happen here. It's just not. There would be a lot of perforations.
It's the opposite. What is that? It's the opposite of what they used to say, where you would get a lot of friends of a store would come and everybody would buy something. Remember a flash mob?
Steal some.
It's like a flash mob. Oh,
it's so confusing.
Yeah. So no, to buy. Yeah. It's like if a little neighborhood store's going out of business, you get a flash mob. Everybody comes in and buys something, right, for that day. So this is like the opposite. Let's get a flash mob, but go there and steal everything.
Well, I don't
what's your
think there's
point?
any
I guess there
coincidence
should be a point to
that this is happening in liberal areas, typically California. Wonder if we can draw a line from point A to point B. Not very many firearms,
Don't see it.
and then you, along the way, have very liberal prosecutors who don't want to put anybody in jail, and now we've got flash mob looting. Who'd have thought?
Well, they did, and I think was it Chicago. They came up with an outstanding solution. Maybe it was California. The mayor said they're going to fix it by restricting parking close to the retail stores.
Are you serious?
Okay, we're laughing here. I am not at all kidding. I wish I could remember what city it is, but that's the story. They're going to restrict parking and the amount of cars flowing in and out because that'll fix it or something.
Yeah, people can't walk up, right?
I don't know.
I have no
words
words
either.
Well,
we fixed it already.
The
here.
red
we didn't
curb
even have to do anything.
Yeah, the red curb in front of the bank certainly stops armed robbery suspect from stopping there and going.
Well,
in.
guys,
I know, I've seen that happen.
I was going to say, this
But,
raises a great
go ahead.
question that we can talk about as the cranks, aside from our general disbelief this is actually occurring. But, okay, Mr. John Q. Citizen with his Master Blaster 5000 legally concealed on his hip is shopping at the Gucci outlet or whatever, and the flash mob comes in. What do you do? What do you do?
It's a great question, right? Because some of them are armed.
Well, they've all got
I
hammers
mean,
and
some of these,
rocks and
well, they got lethal weapons
Crowbars.
for sure of various types, but I'm talking armed with firearms,
Yeah.
And I guess that brings up the age-old question of you got to decide if somebody might shoot at you, so you can decide what to do about it.
Well, it is truly what you say, Tom. It is up to you. And I think I'm going to reach back to my time as a policeman, which is I would always tell people, stay out of harm's way as best you can, be a really good witness. And if you're able to defend yourself, be prepared to defend yourself if you have to. But I think the average flash mob victim customer, I mean, it's not your store. It's not your stuff, right? So don't be invested in trying to stop them from stealing the Gucci watches. The only thing you really have responsibility for there is yourself and your family. So my focus would be on the minute I see something happening is my family and I will go hide behind something somewhere. And, I put them behind me. I might take my gun and put it in my hand underneath my coat. I don't want the bad guys to see that I have a gun in my hand because then they'll shoot me. But I'm going to be ready to defend myself. And they can steal that entire store completely bone dry empty and leave with it. And I'll hold the door open, as long as everybody leaves. That's my philosophy. What do you guys think, Brent? What would you do?
Can I say one quick thing, Brent? I'm sorry. Don't fall out of your chair, Roy. I agree with you 100%. Is this the first time ever?
Wow.
That's why this works.
No, sorry, Brent.
Well, this may change your
I
mind,
just wanted
Tom.
him to know that, 2 thumbs up on that.
This may change your mind, Tom. I agree with Roy. So, is this a first time ever? All three of us agree.
No way.
Folks,
Oh,
we'd like
wait
to
a minute.
Thank you
Time
for
out.
participating and watching the last episode of Gun Cranks TV. It's been fun. It's been a fun
guess
ride. But
we
there
are
comes
done.
a time when a
Yep.
show just jumps the shark.
Do you feel the earth?
That's
It's
it. So,
spinning off its axis.
Our work here is done.
No,
So,
I mean, it just...
but that means something, though. And I think it means, though, that maybe as bizarre as the three of us are, I think that there's a kernel of commonality and truth to this, which I think too many people overlook because they talk about pulling out the Raven 25 and engaging the bank robber.
Good thinking there, Tex.
well, I tell you that, it's that's the tough call you got to make is at what point does that group of people stealing Roy, excellent point, somebody else's stuff, at what point are you in danger? You may be. I'm not saying don't be ready. I'm with you on that. I'm going to be really ready. But I'm not starting a gun battle from a non-gun battle over La Guiavucci Tiffany stuff or whatever it is,
Well, I think there's a good point in there, too, is not brandishing your weapon. Because if they know you've got a gun in the moment, it's almost like a riot mob kind of thing. I'm sure they're just really emboldened. And if somebody is carrying a gun, hey, that guy's got a gun. I think I need to shoot him. So, be ready, certainly. And I do the same thing. I, definitely have it in my hand, concealed under my shirt, something. But ready to go. But don't be, I have a gun. I'm an armed citizen. That just goes bad.
Hey,
And now we're going to hear about this because I'm going to say I am not a proponent of open carry. I mean, not at any level. I'm sorry. And that's a classic situation of where you would be nothing but in trouble. Because if these people come in, they look over, they see you, they're going to think you're a security guard, they're going to think you're an off-duty cop, they're going to think something like that. May I say also that while you're prepared to defend yourself there, if you have time and if you have the wherewithal, I would also be picking out your threat. In other words, as what's happening is happening in front of you, it's going to happen fast, it's going to be violent, they're probably going to be yelling and screaming bad words and telling people to get down. But somebody's going to be a leader, somebody's going to be the big nutcase, somebody's going to be the guy with the gun, and that's going to be your potential target, and you need to be prepared about that, So, but
Well,
that
and
takes
it goes
a lot of
to
practice,
something
I
I
think.
do almost every time I go in a store of any kind. Where's the back door? Every store has a back door.
I know what you're
and
gonna
that is
say.
my
Yeah.
immediate action. when anything goes on. I'll be ready to fight if I have to, but I don't ever want it to. I call it the scared bunny defense. Hey, they're looting. I'm out of here.
Oh yeah, and you know what, Brent? That's a very good point, and you have to be prepared to do things that we've been trained our entire lives not to do.
Yeah.
Stop, employees only.
Yeah.
I absolutely know for a fact there have been people who are trapped in a situation and they look and they say, "Oh, I can't go out there."
There's a sign.
You know, or caution.
it's a real thing.
Alarm sounds
We're
at
so
exit.
programmed to follow the rules, you know?
Oh yeah, you just have to do the unexpected, and so. But you're exactly right, Brent. It's like something's going down over here. I'm out of here. I just have a dog like that. It's like if something bad was happening.
Yeah. I'll tell you a funny.
I'm out of here.
Hey, I want to give a.
Go ahead.
I was going to say I want to give a plug to one of our writers. This guy is not new by any means, but he's just started working with us more and more. Steve Tarani, a good friend of Brent's, and he brings up an outstanding point. To give you a 2-second background, I mean, this is a guy that spent his career protecting presidents on security details and other public figures of ill repute. Right? He knows what he's doing, and he brings up an excellent point. Is that if you carry a gun, you are a protective detail, not of the world, but of you and your family, period. That is your mission. Your mission isn't to get, start some big gunfight in a jewelry store. Your mission is to make sure your family and you, because if you're not there, you can't protect your family anymore after that day, right? Your mission is to look after them and get them the heck out of danger. So it's a good way to think about stuff like this.
Well, I'll tell my funny story real quick. I just got back from Gunsight Academy, Team Tactics. Thank you to Linda at Mossberg for bringing us out there. But my partner is another pretty well-known media guy that I think he's active duty police officer, but we're both cops and we're going into a cantina scenario. And what happened, we didn't know this, but it was going to be a robbery. A guy burst in with his gun. And it was funny as we're going in there, one of the other people might have whispered in my ear that you're not in law enforcement anymore. So that's a clue. So we're sitting there. The guy, what'll it be, gentlemen? Of course, I ordered clam juice, fresh. I like fresh clam juice. And so the role player comes busting in, brandishing, "I'm going to kill you, blah, blah, blah," and goes up to the clerk and sticks his gun right in his face. And you know what I did? And they were laughing that it was almost like our glasses were suspended in midair. We moved out of there so fast. And then, of course, since it was Gunsight and we had simunitions, we set up on 45s at the door. And when the guy came out, he was Swiss cheese. So it was wonderful, but it was weird getting in that mindset of, as a cop, I have to engage this gentleman, and I'm at Gunsight also, so we expect a big gunfight. And the answer there was, get out, get out.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny you should say that, because when Susie and I, of course, both retired cops, and I adopted the Brent philosophy the moment that I checked out the last day of being a policeman. This is not my responsibility anymore, boys and girls, and Susie still wants to engage, and so sometimes I have to grab her by the scruff of her neck and say, "No,
down, boy,
no,
down."
no."
It's always the significant other that wants to start the fight.
Let them run away. Yeah, it's like, let them run away. That's a good thing, So bless her heart. So, all right. Well, I think there's some good advice there at many levels, and I think the best thing is just remember, if you're in one of these situations, it's going to be loud, it's going to be fast, it's going to be violent, it's going to be unexpected. It's going to surprise you at every level if you've never been exposed to those kind of things. So rather than just melting down, start planning now. Get your family together and practice having them respond to you. And you say, "Come with me." Have them don't say, "What do you want to do? Why do we have to do that?" I mean, get them now so when it happens and you say, "Come with me," everybody comes with you and you get them out. So, right, guys?
Right.
All right.
Gentlemen, it is the holiday season, and we've had a true miracle. It's in all the press. It's a true miracle. Mm-hmm. The gun that Alec Baldwin used on the Rust set that killed the cinematographer, it fired by itself. At least that's what he's telling everybody. And unfortunately, many in the media are confused. Well, how can that be? It must be something weird. Okay, I'm going to go out on a limb here and say guns don't fire themselves. Pretty simple, right?
Wow.
But maybe he did have a miracle gun.
Are you factoring in movie
That
magic?
could be.
Yeah, it is Hollywood, huh?
Yeah.
Why are we not surprised?
Yeah, yeah. And it is possible if the gun was damaged in some way that if he had cocked it, maybe the hammer dropped. But I think the key point here is he still did something to make the gun go bang. If you lay a gun on a table and you don't touch it, absolutely nothing will happen. That's just how that works. But it's so funny, especially some of the left-leaning media that they're very confused by this because you've got an anti-gun proponent in Alec Baldwin, and his gun has killed more people than mine have. So it's what do we report on this?
Yeah.
Well, I think it was the attorney for maybe the armorer or one of the other people that's now being sued that came up with this. The trigger was never pulled, never ever. He touched the gun and bang. How did that happen? So, Roy, you've got a lot more experience in gunsmithing. Can you think of any time in your career where a gun just went bang, sitting on a table or maybe on a display case or something?
Even if it's defective, it needs some initiation to get it to display its effect, or its defect. I think that's a weak and paltry and selfish excuse. I think what has also been interesting to me there is the other actors who've come out, some of them by name, who said, I always make them inspect the gun with me again and explain to me why it's safe. And one guy said, I don't understand a lot about guns, but I do use them in the movies. And so I don't take it for granted. And so they inspect it, the armor inspects it, the prop guy inspects it. When they hand it to me and tell me I can use it, I always have them show me that it's safe again. And gosh, it's just that's
all it takes.
And I know there was one of us was talking about before we started about somebody was explaining the difference between sort of Western single action guns versus modern double action semi-auto guns and stuff like that. And actually they're right. At many levels they're safer because in order to make them to fire, you do have to cock them first. And so I saw a guy that had a single action Colt and he made a website, and this went on for a long time, and it was on a front table in his hallway, and he had a 24-hour clock next to it. And so he was taking time exposures, and he left it there for 30 days and so taking a time exposure every second. And so then he ran the video in fast time. You see the clock going like this, right? And he said, yes, this gun sat at my front door for a solid month and didn't shoot anyone who was walking by, didn't shoot the dog, didn't shoot a hole in the wall. And I thought, well, there you go,
Can you send that to CNN? Because there seems to be an epidemic of auto-mechanical behavior going on. I mean, everybody's reporting that a car ran over a bunch of people recently in a car accident. A car had a car accident,
It's
so, I mean, it might be the same thing causing the gun situation. Now, didn't he also say, one of you was talking before the show about, didn't he also say he didn't
he said
aim?
he did name
that.
it. Yeah.
Yeah. So basically, if you believe Alec and his attorney, somebody started to hand him a gun, and by some stretch of the imagination, it shot the cinematographer who was right behind the lens. But that's a crazy thing, though. These guns, they just got a mind of their own.
Let's change this a little bit and say instead of handing him a gun, let's say they handed him a knife, and it's one of those knives that collapse, right? We've seen them, right? You stab somebody and blood spurts out, but it doesn't go out. So it's the same thing, right? The prop guy has to make sure it works, the armorer guy, the photographer, whoever is involved in it. So now, if you are standing there and they hand you this knife, what would you do? First thing I would do is push it down and make sure that it works, right?
Yeah.
And then arguably, I would
Yeah.
probably say, well, I want this guy to have, please make sure he has some soft body armor or something underneath there, just in
Yeah.
case, there's an accident. And so in the Baldwin case, everyone wants to put the blame on somebody else, but unfortunately here, the blame lies in multiple locations, right? It lies with the guy who put the ammo where it was. It involves with the armorer who did the checking of it. It involves the associate person who cleared the gun and said it was safe. And ultimately, it was also the responsibility of Baldwin before he did it. And so I think maybe any one person could say, I did my job, I didn't do it right, but ultimately everyone has responsibility here. Because you know what? Even if the person at the beginning of the line says they did their job and they checked it, no, they didn't. They didn't.
Yeah.
So
Well, we've said it before that, like in aircraft accidents, they've realized, decades ago, it's not one thing generally. It's a chain of events, and there's different, physical things and different people involved, and somehow that chain all comes together. And if you take any one link out of the chain, it doesn't happen. And that's what amazes me in listening to some of the discussions of protocol. There's literally thousands of television productions going on every year, and nobody gets hurt. It's because they've got very stringent safety protocols. Here's a crazy theory. Let me throw this out here. Maybe they were practicing shooting on that set, and there was live ammo, and it got mixed in, and somebody that didn't know much about guns handed a gun to Alex Baldwin, and he pointed at the camera and killed somebody. That seems like a little more reasonable thing to me than... I know.
Sounds far-fetched.
I like the
but,
mystery gun idea.
You know what I think we need to do, guys? And Tom, it might be American Handgunner's job, I'm not sure. But let's actually find out what is it that they use. Because from what I understand, I did a little bit of research. They have blanks, like 5-in-1 blanks, that just go kapow, right? And then they have other blanks that look like bullets. So when they do the camera pointing at the gun pointing at the camera, you can see the lead bullets in the cylinder, and then they cock it and then they shoot it, right? So at some level, evidently, there is what looks like a projectile, which isn't a projectile, and then the gun still goes bang. And so I don't really understand all of those mechanics, but it seems to me, if you have things that look exactly like bullets but aren't bullets, and you can't easily tell them apart, that's a recipe for disaster. And so I think we all need to learn more about this. And so,
Yeah.
I mean, either if you know someone who can handle that, or I'd be happy to reach out, but I think we should do an investigation.
I've been trying to do that with the Guns Magazine podcast. I'm reaching out through different people. I happen to know somebody that was a pretty big star in the 80s, and he's still got friends that work in Hollywood, and I'm trying to get connected with an actual working armorer who can at least maybe not talk about rust, but talk about how the right way to do it. And, overall, and this has been brought up a couple times within our program, how about people that are handling guns for a living? Maybe they at least take a safety course. They may be anti-gunners, but...
Oh, yeah. You could go to every town or one of those places for a gun safety course.
Teach
right?
safety courses. That's just the name. And
Yeah,
they're
they say they're
liars.
gun safety
Newtown,
organizations.
you're a
They got
liar.
classes.
Mom, you're a liar.
Liar,
There, I
liar,
said
pants
it.
on fire.
Well, this whole thing is just a big elaborate preemptive strike on a whopper of a civil lawsuit coming at Alec Baldwin. I mean, he's a producer in this movie, so it may even be a preemptive strike against criminal.
I think there will be. I think there'll be some
proceedings,
charges.
His name's on the bottom line of this whole thing, and he pulled the trigger, regardless of what he says.
I think
so.
this puts a perspective for me in movies like Saving Private Ryan, where there's the huge beach scenes and there's people shooting guns all around you. It's like, here's movies where they've shot tens of thousands of rounds of ammunition, and it was all done safely. And yet, I remember I was just listening to Tom Hanks' podcast, and he was saying that all of the guys that played soldiers actually went to some basic boot camp, and they were taught firearm safety, and they were taught, how about a lot of those kind of things. And so you're right. If that doesn't go on these movie sets involving firearms, shame on them, huh?
Yeah.
All right. Well, you guys, I'll put the word out a little bit, see what I can find out about the mechanics of what goes on. And Brent, if you keep it up, And Tom, maybe reach out to guys like Will Dabbs and people who are deep in it. Because I think if we come up with a bucket full of facts like that about the mechanics, I think it would help a lot of readers answer some questions.
Yeah. I think that's a great idea because unfortunately there's so much garbage that's being repeated by the media, both left and right, because frankly, you know, I worked in the newspaper business for many, many years, and I've done TV, and I mean, the other guys have too. Not very many. I can count on one hand of over decades how many reporters are actually gun people. They don't know.
Yeah.
They don't have the first clue. So they're just, as long as it comes out of somebody's mouth and they can report it, well, they've done their job of reporting it accurately. They just don't vet these people to even know what they're talking about. So I think Tom's right. It's, I guess, kind of a Hail Mary for Mr. Baldwin and his attorney, because it's going to get ugly one of these days pretty quick. So, well, we'll investigate, and I'm sure we will have more on Mr. Alec Baldwin and Rust. Well, guys, that was another great episode of the Gun Cranks, and if you like what we're doing or you got questions or comments, that's what that little comment thing down at the bottom is for. We love to hear from you, and of course, that helps us with YouTube and our evil corporate overlords, because that's what they base our popularity on, is how many folks are commenting and sharing. So please, leave a comment, say hi, tell us what you want for Christmas, or how dumb Alec Baldwin is. But whatever you do, leave us a comment and make sure you share it in all your various places. Also, hey, Tom McHale, speaking of Christmas gifts, we have specialty publications. If I can get all this out, how can people find our specialty publications?
You know what? They can go to AmericanHandgunner.com and get them that way. I mean, they could go to gunsmagazine.com too, but AmericanHandgunner.com is way cooler. So go that way, and either of those sites will take you to the FMG Pubs store, where you can pick up copies of our Old West, surplus, do-it-yourself gunsmithing, and all the others. They are timeless and make great gifts.
Wow. I knew that kumbaya moment where we all agreed on something wouldn't last
You
very
said
long.
it.
Well, hey. Well, that's it for this episode of the Gun Cranks. I had a little stumble there. We are the Gun Cranks. I've got it written right here on the palm of my hand. So stay tuned for our next episode in a couple weeks. It'll be our big Christmas show. Woo! So until then, have fun, get out there, be safe, and we will see you.
And Brent will practice by then.
Cut.
Ow.
And leave
left
that
a
in.
mark.
That's funny.
That is funny.
Yeah.